I thought coming back to the US would feel familiar, but instead I feel like a foreigner in my own country. And that's when I realized living in Spain changed me more than I thought. What's up, travelers and future expats? Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Britt, an American who's been living in Spain for the past 6 years. I'm currently in the States celebrating the holiday season with my family, and today we're diving deep into all of the reverse culture shocks I've been noticing. We're talking about the weird, the frustrating, and even the surprisingly nice. Let's dive right in. The first reverse culture shock we're getting into is all about the American politeness and friendliness. In my opinion, I think service is generally a lot friendlier in the States than it is in Spain and a lot of Europe. So some people might credit if you're nice as a service worker that you're only doing it for tips, which I do agree with because it is part of your job, but I'm also talking about people being approachable and friendly like in general. So with my experience, I do think Americans come off way nicer than a lot of Spanish people I've tried to meet and get to know. And the reason for this, I don't really think it's American fake niceness. I think Americans are a bit more open to diversity and a bit more open to meeting different people. And of course, I'm not trying to generalize here. I'm just talking from my experience. But I did want to mention that this is something that foreign friends that I've made in Spain have also had a big problem with. So I think there's a common theme that it is a bit tricky to get into a Spanish friend group as a foreigner. And also, notice how I said friend group. I didn't say that it was impossible to befriend a Spanish person. I noticed you could definitely befriend Spanish people, but it might be a bit rare for them to bring you into their Spanish, childhood friend group. And if they do introduce you to their childhood Spanish friend group, then you're definitely getting lucky, and that's most likely going to be a bestie for life. Yay! And the next reverse culture shock I'm having while visiting the US is all about dog etiquette and clean sidewalks. So in the States, most people clean up after their dogs. There's actually a lot of signs all over the towns to clean up after the dog, and if you don't, that it can contaminate the water and stuff like that. So I feel like it's really frowned upon to leave dog poop. And in Spain, of course, there are signs and there are fines if you don't clean up the dog poop, but I don't really feel like it's enforced. And I feel like there are certain neighborhoods in Spain, specifically like in Madrid, that there is just a ton of dog poop on the ground, and that to me is just a big no-no. I think it's very uncivilized. But to be honest, I have noticed that it's not just a Spain problem, because I have noticed a lot of dog poop in a lot of parts of Europe, such as Germany, Italy, and even France. Since it does happen in other countries in Europe, I do think maybe it's a cultural thing. I'm not really sure. I've tried to get to the bottom of why people just leave the dog poop on the sidewalk, and I haven't really been able to find out much, except for some people think that the street cleaners are going to wash it away. I've heard that theory once, but outside of that, I haven't really heard much. So if you do happen to know anything, I would love to know your 2 cents in the comments. And the next major reverse culture shock I'm experiencing while visiting the US has to do so much with car culture. And I feel like this is a major lifestyle frustration I have every time I come visit here, because I feel like nothing is in walking distance. You need a car to get everywhere and anywhere. And that's absolutely bizarre. It's such a trap for people to consume more and to buy a car, and that I think is almost uncomparable to living in Spain, because in Spain, especially in a big city in Spain, you do not need a car at all, and having a car there is almost looked at as a luxury. So to give you context, I am currently about half a mile from the closest supermarket. That's about a 13-minute walk. The next closest supermarket from there would be a mile and a 1.3, which would be 27-minute walk. And then after that, we're looking at 1.8 miles, and that's a 42-minute walk. So those are the 3 closest supermarkets from where I am right now. I also want to add that those distances aren't anything bizarre, but it is quite cold here. It's actually 27 degrees Fahrenheit to be exact. Feels like 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and in Celsius it's -3 and it feels like -7. So I don't know about you, but I definitely do not want to be walking to any supermarket right now in this weather. That's also a really big change from what I was used to living in Spain. I literally had 5 supermarkets outside my door when I was living in Madrid. It was a block or 2 blocks away. And then when I was living in Tenerife, that wasn't even a block away. It was literally I would say maybe 10 steps away from my house. So super duper duper convenient and excellent urban planning. I love the urban planning in Spain and a lot of European countries, and I think the US definitely needs to learn from that. And the last thing that I want to say about car culture is that there are a lack of sidewalks in some areas, and the only thing that I find the most bizarre is that the lack of sidewalks are in some areas where it's a school area. Luckily, there are crossing guards that get the students and the kids to and from the school, but I just think it's weird that there's no sidewalks in a lot of areas. I've definitely tried to go on some hikes here, and I've been humbled real quick. So I don't know why. The sidewalk infrastructure needs to get better in New Jersey. And the next reverse culture shock is all about consumption. So I feel like every time I visit the States, everywhere I look, there's a sale and it's so much pressure to buy this or buy that. Even if I'm just out trying to run errands, I feel like I'm being sold to nonstop. The last thing that I want to say about consumption is about tipping. I feel like tipping has gotten out of hand in the US, and I feel like it's very strange when I go to buy a water bottle or maybe like a Gatorade or a juice and then I'm expected to tip. Why would I tip you for handing me over a drink that I paid for? And I feel like with the tipping getting so out of hand, I feel like it makes you realize that a lot of companies don't want to go for fair wages with their workers. They rather just try to squeeze extra money out of their customer. And the next reverse culture shock that I'm sure everyone knows by now because it's not a secret is the cost of living. I'm not sure why, but everything is so expensive in the States right now. We're talking groceries, gas, don't even get me started on rent. That's absolutely ludicrous right now. And it seems like prices keep going up versus going down, which is very concerning. I don't know if you feel this too, but I feel like life in the States comes with a fee attached. For example, in Spain, I'd go to the store, pick up basics, and it didn't feel like I was spending money every time. Here, it's shocking. Healthcare costs right now are through the roof. Healthcare insurance premiums keep going up, and that means more money out of your pocket just for health insurance. And this is where I think it's not just the money, it's the stress that comes with knowing a single bill could wreck your whole month. And lastly, for healthy food, expect to pay a premium. If you're buying cheaper food, it might be a lot more processed. After living in Spain, these costs hit harder because you start noticing the contrast in how life can feel lighter when money isn't constantly pressing on you. One thing that really hit me coming back to the US is how many people live to work versus work to live. I also feel like there's a very big toxic rat race in America. So it's like, I want to get the bigger, better job than you. And Americans are very competitive. And sometimes it seems like Americans are comparing lives as a competition. And after living abroad, the American rat race looks very exhausting to me. And the reason why is because it's not just work, it's this constant pressure to prove, buy, and compete.